Hi, this is Welcome to Self, and I'm your host, Dr. Hayley D. Quinn, the anti-burnout business coach. I'm a speaker, author, former clinical psychologist, and late identified ADHDer. Welcome to Self is a podcast for business owners like you who want success, but not at the cost of your well-being. This is about transforming self and transforming business. I'll be here to remind you that you're human first, and as well as being a business owner, you have different roles in your life that need your attention. And to manage those well, you need to take care of yourself in the best way possible. Here you'll learn about practices that'll help you navigate not just your business, but your non-work life as well. And you'll realise that you're not alone in the ways you struggle. You'll have your curiosity piqued on various topics as I chat with wonderful guests and bring you solo bite-sized episodes. I'm here for service-based business owners and entrepreneurs like you to help you increase your self-care and compassion, change your relationship with yourself and your business, and elevate your business to a new level so you can live the full and meaningful life you desire. This is a place of nourishment, growth, and helpful information. A place where you can learn ways to assist you and your business to thrive. We'll talk all things mindset, strategy, and well-being, and I'm so excited you're here. If you haven't already, go and hit subscribe so you don't miss an episode. So let's get started. Hi, and welcome to another episode. Today I'm chatting with Sarah Gray. Sarah is one of Australia's leading dual qualified and registered health professionals in pharmacy and nutrition, holding a Bachelor of Pharmacy and a Master of Human Nutrition. Sarah is also a certified menopause practitioner. With over 25 years' experience in the health and wellness industry, Sarah's holistic approach focuses on supplements and science-based solutions for perimenopause and menopause. She has developed a proven framework for implementing science-based solutions to manage the symptoms of perimenopause. In October 2025, Sarah published her debut book, It's Not You, It's Perimenopause: Science-Based Solutions to Help Women Thrive in Midlife. As a trusted thought leader, Sarah has appeared on Channel 10's My Market Kitchen and is a recognised voice across radio, print, digital media and podcasts. Welcome, Sarah, and thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Hayley. It's lovely to be with you today.
Can you start by telling us what led you to specialising in perimenopause and menopause and, of course, writing your book?
Yeah, absolutely. I think going through this phase of life makes you really want to learn more about it, which is probably one of the things that is really sparked the interest. But to tell the story, sort of how it kind of evolved, I am a pharmacist and nutritionist, as you've just mentioned, and I had an online clinic. I still do. And the local gym that I used to live near would send lots and lots of clients my way, which was lovely. And many of my clients are women aged between 30 and 50. And 99% of the time, it would be a consultation around, well, I really want to lose this midline weight or excess weight that's just kind of piling on and I'm not sure why. Now, as a nutritionist, I don't really love talking about weight loss as the kind of primary goal for somebody because I find that it's a real mindset shift. And if you've got a really bigger goal, like you want to be healthier to run around with your kids, or you want to be able to be stronger and less fall less, or be more active in your older age, it's a bigger goal and a better goal to really have. And then the weight loss kind of becomes part of your health journey. And as I delved more into that, I found out that most of these women, through blood tests and other symptoms we were checking, were really all experiencing these hormonal changes, which are in itself perimenopause. So it really motivated me to train a bit more in that space and understand what was happening, because not only was it around that physical and some of the psychological changes, but really low mood and a very stressful and tumultuous time for these women. And many of them entering the clinic or coming online in tears. So I thought, well, what can I do as a practitioner to better equip myself to help these women live happier lives and get through this really tumultuous phase, but understand there's things you can do to make yourself feel better.
Yeah, fantastic. I love that you mentioned that, the sort of shifting the overall overarching goal from weight loss to health and well-being. I think we have so much messaging, particularly as women, about you should be a particular size, you should look a particular way, but
Yeah.
we really do want to be focusing on long-term health and well-being, don't we, rather than how do I look, because that's going to change again and again and again as we get older. So I love
Yeah.
your focus.
100%. So the thing for me, I think about, like, when I go to the gym in the morning or I go for a run, I'm thinking about, well, when I'm in my post-menopause phase, I want to be strong. I want to be able to walk for as long as I can walk. I want to be able to lift things, carry my groceries, be mobile. So it's about health. And I love that approach. Thinking about that makes it a lot easier and less stressful to worry about what I look like today. It's more about how healthy is my body to live a healthier, longer lifespan.
Yeah, absolutely. I am in the menopause phase. I went through that quite a long time ago now, and there wasn't the conversations. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, which I to this day am really unsure that that was ever what was happening for me. I think I was in perimenopause and I was going through menopause, and the information just wasn't there, and the conversations weren't being had. And gosh, I wish I'd had your book back then. How much nicer, and the conversations that are now happening so much more kind of on social media and from people like yourselves would have been so helpful for me. So I love that you're bringing this work for people now who are going through that, because I think there's a lot of misunderstanding, isn't there, that people will say, oh no, I'm not in perimenopause, I don't really have any symptoms. And it's like, but it starts so much earlier than we think, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And there's almost a fear too. So I have women come to me or speak at a conference, or I see women and they say, oh, well, I don't think I have the symptoms yet. I'm just waiting until I get a few more before I go to the doctor. But, fibromyalgia, was it joint pain? Was it muscle pain? Is it low mood? Is it that you're getting dizzy? Are these things happening that could be indicating you're going potentially into early phases of perimenopause? But sometimes we're a bit worried and scared about that, and we feel fearful because you're almost losing your identity as a woman and what you had for a long period of your life. But what I find is with these normalizations of information and sharing more, like we learned about puberty and sex ed at school, but nothing about this, which is just crazy when you think about it. When you learn more about it, you understand it's just another phase of your life, and there'll be more phases of your life, and not to fear it. It's a much nicer. Whereas, yeah, a bit like yourself, I had symptoms appear early that were sort of misdiagnosed, I feel, as well. So it's really good to understand so you can advocate for yourself when it comes to that as well.
Absolutely. And why do you think these conversations are so important, especially for women in business? Because a lot of my listeners are women who are running businesses or high level employment in other businesses.
Yeah. So, we know women, and you know a lot more about this than myself with the work that you do. Like, women are high performance, but this period of life is that sandwich generation. When you're having these symptoms, you're usually at the peak of your career. You've got maybe kids that are getting a bit older, or you're driving them around to sports, aging parents, and all of a sudden you've got brain fog. You can't concentrate like you used to. You're getting more tired, maybe a bit more frustrated with your work colleagues, feeling like your mood's changing, not motivated, losing identity, a lot of these different things. And I just want to say, all those things aren't going to happen to you all at once. Everyone has a varying set of symptoms. I'm just sharing a range that are common. And it's really important to know about these things because in the workplace, there's huge amount of research done. None of it's been published. More of it's been kind of online surveys done by Louise Newsom, a doctor in this space, and other menopause experts. But they're studies of thousands, or surveys, I should say, of thousands of women, finding out that women are leaving the workplace early, retiring early, taking sick leave, but not really being feeling safe or confident to tell their workplace or employer what it's about. And this is the one that really blows my mind, saying that their work efficiency and effectiveness is reduced. They're not as quick as they used to be, and the output's not as good. And the most fascinating part of that is it's all self-reported. Mm-hmm. So what I find is my sort of a little bit of word of advice, I'm sure we'll get to that later too, is really think about how you're perceived by other people as well. And sometimes we can be a little bit hard on ourselves as women and think, oh, it took me 2 hours to get the job done that used to take me half an hour. It's probably faster than other people anyway. So really find out from your colleagues, how are you feeling with my performance, and understand and validate that, because sometimes it's putting a lot of pressure on yourself when really your performance is probably fine. So there's a lot to be done in the workspace, with, menopause friendly workplaces, which is emerging slowly, but it's really important that you understand it, because then if you can identify and understand what's happening, you can be kinder to yourself and often make things a little bit easier, in what's quite a confusing time.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you talk about that. And then, the compassion piece comes in really importantly there, isn't it? That we
Yes.
can look through this lens compassionately and not shame and blame ourselves for something that we're going through that is a very natural process of life as well, but also being realistic in how we're seeing ourselves by perhaps speaking to other people that we know are supportive and kind.
Yep.
Perhaps not the people in your life that perhaps might be a bit critical. You probably don't want to be asking them,
No.
but to really find out how we're going, both on our own self-report, but like you say, people who care about us around us that
Yeah.
can give us a realistic look at what's happening as well. What
Yeah.
do you see as some of the biggest challenges that women have during this season of life, especially those that are either running businesses or perhaps, like you say, have the teenagers
Yeah.
at home?
So a couple of things. One would be sense of identity and sense of self, and thinking, I don't not enjoying my work anymore. I don't feel like I used to feel anymore. I don't feel like myself anymore. I feel like I'm out of my own skin. So it's about that sense of identity. Many women change careers or start a second career, have a second act in this phase of life. So it's really understanding there are changes happening in your brain and chemically as well. So you may not be thinking the way you normally would be. So it's important to understand if these things start to happen, that you really should speak to somebody and understand what's happening. And yeah, if you really do want to change because you're seeing things differently, that's great. But don't sort of sit and suffer in silence and feel like you're losing control. Always try and speak to other people and get support. There's a bit of research from Professor Susan Pinker, and she wrote a book called The Village Effect, which shows so much power in community. So I guess, if you think you're suffering in silence, I can guarantee you there's other women in your workplace and in your circles and your family who are also experiencing this. And if you actually lean into that community piece and talk about it, you can feel a bit more normal in that it actually is something that's happening for us all. I'd also say if you're in that moment of thinking, oh my gosh, I've got kids to drop off, aging parents, everything's going wrong, I'm busy at work, I can't cope, my moods are changing, just sit back and think, okay, this is a part of my health like any other part of my health. I need to go and seek help, because it's not normal to feel that way all the time. And there are things that you can do with nutrition, lifestyle, and medications to help you get through that little bridge of time in life, which is about 4 to 8 years for most women. Some will have symptoms post once you pass the menopause phase, but get support, because if you're feeling like that, sometimes it's hard to see straight. So when you were saying before, you mentioned something like, you don't have to do it all and try and be more compassionate. I find that's a good thing when you're in a good mindset. When you're not in a good mindset because you're feeling like your hormonal fluctuations are impacting your mood, it can be hard to see things clearly. To try and get someone to help support you to be in a space where you start to feel a bit more comfortable and can see things a little bit more clearly as well. So, really seeking support and community and connection is my number one tip for most people in this phase of life.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, across all life, we know from the research, we're social beings. It's part of our DNA, being
Exactly.
connected. But there is so much information out there. I mean, there's information on Instagram and TikTok and all over the place. And, I'm a big believer in getting a good health team around you, good support in whatever domains in life you need, and seeking that from people who have the credible backgrounds, because there
Yeah.
is so much. I mean, we can go online and there's always going to be somebody telling us the next latest greatest supplement we should have, or the thing we should be doing, or get up at 5 o'clock, or do whatever. And the work I do with people is very much understanding yourself as a unique human being and making sure that you're doing things that suit you, because generic advice doesn't tend to work well for everybody. So, what advice would you give to people who are being absolutely bombarded with so much information on what's helpful, what's not, what should we be taking? Should you be on, HRT or not? What supplements should you be taking? What sort of advice would you give to people?
I love this question. This is the reason I wrote my book. And you'd know this from writing a book. You've got to work out the purpose of the book when you really want to write it, but how it fits in. And mine was, well, there's all this information and overwhelm. How can I actually try and cut through that with some simple information that's science-based from a person that people can trust due to my qualifications? And I actually have a running character through the book called Sophia, who's a woman just like what you're mentioning, who's overwhelmed and inundated with the next supplement or the next diet to try or miracle cure. So my advice is, and this is easier said than done, I realize, but try and start with a bit of a blank page and be really careful and audit your social media, audit where you're getting your information from. Check the credibility of the people you're getting your information from. And that can try and clean up your algorithm a little bit. I also have this analogy, which is about baking a cake. I love cake and always talk about this, but it's about what you mentioned there, and that everybody's unique and individual. And one supplement, so creatine, all the rage for women in perimenopause right now. Does every single woman in perimenopause need creatine? No. Just because an influencer is making a smoothie in the morning with creatine and ashwagandha or magnesium, you don't necessarily need it. So my cake theory is around everyone's cake ingredients are unique. You're a unique person, and you'll build up what you need across nutrition, supplements, lifestyle changes. And lifestyle changes like exercise and mindfulness and connection are overwhelmingly amazing in this space. So don't discount those things that don't get too much of the shiny kind of media. And then maybe you need medications, but your recipe and your cake are very different to your next door neighbors or your best friends or your cousins. So it's also not just social media. It's, I can't help but sit down at a restaurant or go out with a group of people and just listen and reflect. And it's always around, I'm experiencing XYZ symptom. Oh, have you tried this fancy turmeric supplement that I found? So it's about trying to shield yourself and accepting that information. But then, as you said, go back to your trusted health team and understand what is right for you as an individual.
It's really interesting. I've been noticing in, online groups that I'm in where people, like even local community groups, where people are going in and asking legal advice, health advice, all these different things from people who really we shouldn't necessarily be seeking that advice from. It's great to have the conversations, isn't it? To say, I'm feeling this. Have you ever experienced that? So you have that common humanity. You're not feeling alone. But they're not necessarily, your neighbours aren't necessarily the people you should be going to say, what are the supplements I should be taking for perimenopause? Or what's the exercise regime that would work for me? Or, what do I need to be doing? What do you think it is that stops people going to qualified professionals?
I think it is a bit to do in my specific space and maybe in others too. I was actually speaking to a friend this morning looking for good psychology support. I think it comes down to cost for a lot of people. Not necessarily the cost once they get to a good quality practitioner, the cost or the money they've spent before they get to you. So I'll often have lots of email communication or phone calls, or I'm very generous with my time with people before they even pay $1 or book an appointment, because mostly it's like I've spent $2,000 or $3,000. I've seen all these people, I've bought all these supplements, but I still don't feel any better. And so to sort of get them across the line to invest a little bit more money in somebody and like myself or like yourself in your space can sometimes be just too overwhelming. So I'll just ask the free perimenopause group on Facebook or the local community group as well. I've seen things on those groups around, I've got expired medication, can I still take it? And I have to sort of hold back and think, I can't interact here because of our professional codes, like because then I'm, actually giving advice. So I think it's money. I think it's also wanting a silver bullet and miracle solution. So wanting to hear that your friend started taking magnesium and it cured all their dizziness and all their symptoms. Therefore, you take that and everything will go away. And that kind of makes it easy for you in a bit of denial in terms of, I'll just quickly use that and everything will be fine. So they're the two things I think. But I think, unfortunately, in this day and age, it's a cost thing, but not the cost of yourself as a practitioner. It's the cost of what they've spent before they get to you.
Yeah, look, I think, people are really vulnerable in these different transition phases in life, and we are looking for something that's going to solve the problem. And people can be under so much distress.
Yeah.
I know for me, like I say, there just wasn't the information around perimenopause. There weren't the conversations, there wasn't the training in as much perhaps with the health professionals. And I had spent a lot of money and a lot of time on seeing specialists for different things and still not getting any answers. But if you can go and find people who are qualified and specialized, like yourself, in that particular area, the value of finding somebody who knows what they're talking about actually gets you to a solution that is custom for you, quicker, and long term costs you less money, right?
Yeah, definitely. And also, I always talk about health, just like anything else in life, it's a two-way relationship. So if you come to see me and I don't suit you, or you don't get along with me, or you don't feel like we connect, you don't have to keep coming to see me. You have to have a really good rapport with your health professional. And people tend in this space to keep going back and signing up to supplement monthly subscriptions or all these really expensive things. And then when I sit down with them and ask them in the first couple of minutes of a consultation, well, which of all these things made you feel better? And they say, oh, nothing really. It's sort of, I can't fathom that myself. Maybe it's because, as health professionals, you see things through a different lens, but I see it as it's a two-way relationship. So if you don't feel like you're getting something out of it, value for your money, but also not feeling better, and it's not a miracle, you're not going to feel better in 5 minutes. But if you go and see someone for 3 to 6 months and you're not noticing any changes, well, then really think about whether or not you need to switch who you're seeing. Because even it might be the most qualified person in the world, but you have to have a really good rapport with that person because you're divulging some of your really, I know I'm not a therapist, but, I often have, the first half an hour of a consultation, I feel like I probably should do some qualifications in that, and I'm actually really strongly suggesting they go and speak to somebody. So yeah, I think it's a mix of all of those things.
Yeah. I don't know if this is your area so much, but I know just through my work previously as a psychologist and also my work as a coach, I work with a lot of neurodivergent women. I'm late identified autistic ADHD myself. And that for me came at the time, well, after I was through menopause, actually. But I guess as a result, the coping strategies and the ways that I had managed life as a neurodivergent person in a neurotypical world were working really well.
Mm.
Um, and then I went through perimenopause, unbeknownst to me. And those things became much harder to maintain. And I hear that a lot from other women. I mention it in my book that, a lot of women actually start to question a lot of things and then they find out they're neurodivergent. And it tends to be around that time of perimenopause, menopause, as we're seeing a lot of. What's your kind of experience with that? And do you have any recommendations for people around that?
Yeah, I don't have a specific training or experience in that, but anecdotally, I can share that I've had lots of my clients that I've recommended speak to a medical professional and had diagnoses similar to yourself. And it's almost like the changes in those hormones put you at a different baseline level, and all of a sudden you have to readjust, is the way that I see it from their side. There is a lot of research, and I just would love to have the time to dive into it, which talks about the increased rates of diagnosis of these types of things, especially around this phase of life. And I really want to get a bit more understanding of that and understanding why that actually happens. I would just say too, though, that what's happening sometimes is that women will come to me and say, well, I've just self-diagnosed myself. I think I've got ADHD. So just, that's how I'm feeling. I've been reading about it. So I'm sure you feel, I know this is not my podcast, I shouldn't ask you questions, but it's probably similar in your space, isn't it? Because people are getting all this information now about what it is, what all the symptoms and signs are, but probably need advice. So I always recommend them back to a psychologist or to their GP to speak to a health professional if they think that's the case. Or if I identify little sort of symptoms or things that I can see in my experience, I'll always try and steer them in the direction I think everybody should have a really good GP and a really good psychologist. That's just my opinion. And then nutrition and pharmacy sit around that. But I think without that psychology and support, sometimes doesn't matter what I ask people to do or how I ask them to change, those behavioral things really need to be addressed, or those mindset things need to be addressed before we can overcome any hurdles. And we often work really nicely together if there's kind of a team.
Yeah, look, I mean, health is complex. People are complex.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you think about it early in life, when people go through puberty, that has such an impact on mental health and well-being as well, depending how that transition is for you. And it's no different, is it, as we age and we go through these later transitions. So, yeah, it's interesting stuff. I think I always come back to, it was really about understanding ourselves, really understanding what's happening for us, perhaps why we're engaging in the things we're engaging in, and then having good support around. And I also, you know, acknowledge my own privilege in this, that I am in a position where I can have good health professionals around me, people to support me in my business and my home life and all different things. And not everybody has that. But thankfully, there is also free information from credible people like yourself, and, you know, low cost books and things like that people can now start to access. And unfortunately, not always the health system that is the way we might want it to be, but better than many places in the world. So I think that's important to acknowledge as well. What have been the most rewarding aspects for you in doing this work?
Yeah, it has to be the feedback, the patient feedback. I got, there's just one particular patient that's in my mind as I say this, it was bringing a smile to my face. Just like some of the words that this patient wrote to me in a couple of email communications, it brought me to tears. Like, to say that, you know, she felt heard, even the fact that she just had an appointment with me and I hadn't even sent her treatment plan to her yet, made her feel safe, that somebody had heard how she felt, and that she just felt better the next day knowing that somebody was in her court. And to me, that's why we do what we do, right? You know, you become a health professional because you want to help people. And saying things like, I was completely overwhelmed, didn't know where to start, and now I feel comfortable, in subsequent feedback that I received from this particular patient, even this week, makes you think, well, that's that's why you do what you do. And, you know, I'm sure you can feel familiar with this as well. When you write a book, obviously you've got lots of reasons why you write a book, but you really want to help people. So when somebody reads your book and tells you that your book has done what you wanted it to do, it's like that full circle moment. You sit back and think, oh, I've done that. So getting random people that I've never met before, not even my clients, reach out and say, wow, you know, this has really helped me actually get through. I think that's rewarding because, you know, at the end of the day, if you're making somebody else's life better and helping someone, there's no better feeling in my view than that you can actually be helping someone enjoy their life and be happier. You probably get that a lot in the work that you do, but yeah, for me, that's very fulfilling.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I was going to ask you what's been your favourite thing about the book.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Mine is only, at the time of recording this, published out in the world for 5 days. And some people have only just got the book and some people are still waiting for it in the post. But that's the thing I'm looking forward to as well, is people kind of reaching out and letting me know what they found helpful about the book and stuff. I think that's just going to be a massive thrill.
It really is, because, you know, you don't write a book to become a millionaire, because if you are, I'm sorry, you know, it's not like that. You write a book. Well, I feel like if you write a book, you need to have that strong purpose and meaning, because it really is quite a challenging task to get to the end of that process. And when somebody tells you you've sort of achieved that, it's just, yeah, I can't wait for you to get that. It's a beautiful feeling.
So if you are listening and you've read It's Not You, It's Perimenopause, or my book From Self-Neglect to Self-Compassion, please do reach out to myself and Sarah and let us know how you find it, because as you can hear, we're both really excited by that.
Yes, please do.
So you talk about, you know, it's really rewarding to help other people. And I was a psychologist for a long time and now work as a mindset and wellbeing coach and focus on burnout prevention. And it's still about helping others. But how do you take care of yourself whilst helping others? Because obviously that's my passion area, is that the helpers aren't being left behind and
Yes.
not being helped at all.
Yeah.
So how do you take care of yourself whilst doing this work?
I'm very much looking forward to getting your book. I know mine's coming and on its way. So it's one of the reasons I really wanted to get a copy, because I'm not that good at it, if I'm really being honest. I do try. So the couple of things I do to try and keep myself, to look after myself and try and immerse myself in things that I love. So I absolutely love animals and nature. So I've recently moved to a property that's got a lot more beautiful gardens and nature and birds and just sitting out and enjoying nature. And I moved there, and 3 months in, I thought to myself, I've barely even stepped into the garden. So now I've made a commitment to myself that every day I go out, even if it's just 10 or 15 minutes with no distraction, and just enjoy the garden. So it meets nature. And the second thing is probably around my movement and exercise. So I love to move my body, whether it's strength training or running. I love running or walking or just being active. It's almost like a non-negotiable. So at the moment I'm traveling, I'm in a hotel room today, and my biggest thing for the next 3 days, I've got really long days, but I've made sure I carve out that 30 minutes to exercise and move, because to me that's a non-negotiable. Nothing else will stop me doing that for 30 minutes, because it helps me just reset and think about nothing else but that work I'm doing. So they're two things, but I look forward to learning some more strategies or getting better at doing that through reading your book and following along your journey, because I definitely put myself last, I think, when it comes to a lot of these things.
So many people, and I used to.
Mm.
Don't now, but I mean, some days I do.
Yeah.
We never get it. I think even when we know this stuff and we've got the background and the training and we've written the books or whatever we've done, we still don't get it right all the time.
Exactly.
That for me is where compassion's so beautiful, because it's like, well, of course, I mean, you're a human, you're never going to get it right all the time, and that's okay.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But I love that. I only run if something's chasing me. Not my thing to do, but and struggle with the consistency of exercise. Like, I'll get into the routine and I do it and I do it. And I know for me, this is part of having ADHD. And I can get bored with doing the same things. Then I stop doing it and then I don't do it. And so it's an ongoing process. So I think we all have these things, but then I reach out to people who can help me or help keep me accountable. And I think in whatever we're trying to manage in our lives or we're struggling with, having people we know we can turn to help is just really, really beneficial.
Yeah.
Hey?
Yeah, it is. And I'm probably on the other side in that I have a tendency to get really like, I have to do something. If I don't do it, I get really hard on myself. So if you haven't gone for that run, well, you should have gone for the run. You're supposed to do it. So I'm trying to become more, well, you get to go on that run because you have the ability to run. Your legs work, you can run, you can enjoy nature. And if one day you don't get to do the exact run you couldn't do, that's okay. You know, you actually got up this morning and you could see the sun and you could enjoy life. So my husband's a really good anger in that space to say, well, it's okay, you couldn't run today, but what else did you do today? So I'm almost on the other side of what you're saying, in that I've got to pull it in sometimes, because you don't want the part of enjoyment of your life to become stressful. Like going for a run or going for a walk shouldn't be stressful for me, because it's actually what makes me feel better. So I sort of dance on that line a fair bit.
Yeah. I think that you'll like the book. There's things in there around our emotional system, threat and drive system, and what motivates behavior. So you might find some interesting stuff in there. I want to ask you the question that I ask all of my guests, and I'm always curious about the answer for this one. If you could meet your 80-year-old self today, she walks into your hotel room now, what do you think she would say to you?
Gosh, this is a great one. I think she would say, stop and smell the roses a little bit more in life. Stop and enjoy moments. Be in the moment, be more present. And you know what? I'm actually visualizing her coming in. Maybe it's because I just watched the movie called Nonnas on Netflix, which was a beautiful movie. I've got an Italian background and I just love cooking. Cooking is like my love language. And she's telling me that I think you should stop and cook a little bit more. She's got an apron on. So I think for me, it's about really just doing what you love, enjoying it, and not rushing through life, because life is about living, not just getting things done.
Absolutely. We were just talking, weren't we, before we hit record, about this time of year where everyone thinks everything has to be done by the end of January. And if you can't do it by the end of January, get it done by the end of February. And if you can't do that, get it done by the end of March. But you must be getting it done. It's like, no, let's all just slow down a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
That, everything in its right timing. And we don't need to be rush with our nervous systems activated all the time.
Yeah.
Sarah, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. If people want to find out more about your work, buy your book, where's the best place for them to do that?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I've loved the conversation. You can find me at the Nutrition Pharmacist, so on my Instagram page or my website. And I love to share evidence-based facts and information for you there. So even if you want to have a look, there's free checklists and things that you can download. I'd love to see you over there and to support you in your journey, however that may look.
And where can they get your book?
My book, you can purchase it on my website or through Booktopia or Amazon or pretty much the usual retailers for books as well. So whichever suits you.
Fantastic. I'll put all those details in the show notes. And thank you again. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for tuning in and listening. I hope you've enjoyed the episode and got a lot from it. I'm sure you will have done. And I'll see you again next week. In the meantime, go well and go gently with yourselves. Bye. Thanks for sharing this time with me today. I hope it's been helpful and supportive. If there's been something in this episode that you have found helpful, I encourage you to share it with your business besties so they can benefit too. Shares, ratings and reviews really help to increase awareness and reach of the podcast, meaning more people can benefit from the information. I really appreciate you taking the time. If you'd like to know about the ways we can work together, check out my website at drhayleydquinn.com. I'll pop the link in the show notes, and you can also join my mailing list from there and be kept up to date with all that is happening. I do need to say, because legal stuff, this podcast is solely for the purpose of education and entertainment. This podcast is not intended as a substitute for individual advice or advice of health professionals or other qualified professionals. Okay, now we've got that formal stuff out of the way. I love hearing from listeners, so don't be shy. Reach out and let me know your thoughts on the episode or what else you'd like to hear about. I wish you well in your relationship with yourself and your business, and may you go well and go gently. And remember, if you thrive, your business will too.